Imagine a world where creatives always have a key to the city.
Use promo code 3PLAY and get 3 signature notebook ones for only $20.
That's THREEPLAY.
This and more are available exclusively at knewamsterdam.com.
Newamsterdam.com. Welcome, citizen. All right. We ready to get started?
I think so.
Okay, so are we ready to do it all in one take without making any mistakes so I don't even have to edit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna try.
All right.
Welcome to Crime Crazy, the weekly true crime podcast with Erin Plein,
And Jordan Middleton.
where we prove
That we know nothing about our legal system.
but we're still crazy for a good true crime story.
We're off to a great start.
So far so good. If we stop here, we'll be great.
Thanks for listening.
The end. Anyway, so Jordan, we missed you.
I know.
I mean, last week I ditched you. And the week before you had stuff going on.
Yeah. Last week was probably we really had no time to do it at all.
No. And then I went out into the snowy tundra
For forever.
And yeah. And then there was a baby and
Yeah.
then just things happened.
But I was busy anyways, you know what I mean?
I don't know because I was gone. No, I do know.
I was say I Marco Polo'd you so much.
We did
I
talk
was
the
busy.
whole time.
Yes. Aaron and I are very codependent, we've discovered.
Oh my God, so much so that we cry when we think about not being together.
Yeah. We were like, what's happening?
Might just be that we're all synced up. I'm not
I-
sure.
Either way. And yeah, I know. I feel like I haven't done this in a very long time, and
I hope you haven't forgotten how. We're gonna see.
probably have, to be honest with you.
Well, you have a new podcasting notebook
Again,
again.
I just started the other one, and now I can't find it. There's such a good story in there. I want to talk about it.
That's gonna be me when we move.
Yeah.
I mean, because that happened because of your move,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's totally gonna. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, podcasting equipment is in a box
It's
or a
somewhere."
tub or.
I know. When we have to try the Skype thing,
We have to try the Skype thing,
which is gonna be weird.
or I'll just take you with me.
Aaron wants to pack me up.
I've already packed some of her belongings with my belongings.
I know. I was like, oh, come on. If I don't, now you're going to have to ship them back to me.
Or you would just have. Oh, I'm holding him hostage. I'm
But
not
that's
shipping
my
him. That's
Rob-
not how
no.
ransom works.
My Rob mug.
Mhm.
You don't need the Rob mug. That's.
I'm not going to use it. I'm going to hold it hostage.
I need it. That's the good one. I have the second one. But the good one's the first one.
Is the first one. So
Yeah.
while Rob is listening to this, Rob, she didn't like the second one.
The second one was just. It wasn't as perfect as the first.
I see.
So Rob knows that. But that's just him.
Okay.
So I have this story.
I'm so excited. Yeah, let's do crimes.
I hope I tell it in, I don't know, in order. It's kind of like I'm going to get to the good stuff at first, and then we'll talk about the details, because I think throughout the story, I need you to know what he did.
Okay.
Does
I'm
that
going to
make
tell mine
sense?
opposite, but
Okay.
you know what? You
Either way.
know your story better than I know your story.
I mean, yeah, I just
Since
finished it.
I haven't heard anything about it yet.
So, this is not our bad guy, but this is our victim.
Okay.
His name is Glenn Holland.
Okay.
And Holland is the name I love writing, but I didn't want to say Holland and then you think it was like
Oh,
the place,
like a
but,
place.
yeah.
Okay.
So, anywho. So Glenn Holland is 67 and he's a retiree. He's just hanging out, which more props to him. And he's a vet, or not a veterinarian, but
Right,
Vietnam
veteran.
vet. I was like, wait, I go to the vet too much to not make a point.
That's who Jordan sees instead of a doctor is the vet.
True. So, okay. His plan was that he was going to spend, what he did was that he spent several weeks in his pickup truck stalking the home of a man he was told had died.
But I thought you said he was the victim.
Oh, you just wait.
I am really confused.
So for weeks, he watched outside this house. He watched the cars in the driveway never move, which was a Corvette and a Hummer. So, like, already those are expensive. And then another pickup truck never move outside of the home. And his name is Mark Anthony Perez.
Yeah, but if he was supposed to be dead, then you would hope the cars wouldn't move.
But just wait.
Okay.
Finally, one Friday morning when Glenn was about to give up, but he was like, you know what, I'm going to go one more time. Like, I got to stalk this guy and see if he's actually dead.
It's my job.
He had nothing else to do. He's a retiree. So he saw Mark leave the house.
The dead guy?
The dead guy. Jump in his truck and take off. He was alive, obviously, and that made things so much worse. So.
What the hell is going on?
Mark Anthony Perez was actually a contractor who ripped off the Hollands.
Oh.
And that was his excuse, is that after this whole like botched job that he did on their home, he had the greatest thought and did like the most reasonable thing and faked his own death.
Oh my God. Wow.
Does that make sense now?
Now it makes a whole lot more sense.
So, which I would totally stalk someone too. Like when you hear all these details, like you're going to be like, I would have been in the truck too.
Well, yeah, because there's got to be something going on. Because if somebody was like, well, your contractor died, I'd be like, well, that's bullshit. But then I would just, be sad.
Yeah. So, I guess he had owed the Hollands roughly like $13,000.
Wow.
So after he discovered that the man was actually alive, he said instead of going and killing him, he decided to sue him.
Okay.
Which,
that's a reasonable human thing to do.
So the repairs that he needed in his new home was, let's see, a new kitchen, a remodeled bathroom, duct repairs, a new water heater, and then some like cosmetics.
Right.
So, okay, a little bit about the Hollands. They lived most of their life in Pennsylvania. Like I said, that he was a Vietnam vet, and she, the wife, eventually she got cancer, and I'm not sure how much that plays into it, but it gets worse when they end up having to go through all of this mess with this guy.
Sure.
Which is just added stress and money, and they don't need that.
No.
But because they were both retired, they decided that they wanted to buy a home in Florida in like a 55 and up community.
Mm-hmm.
So in March 2016.
Also known as all of Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what they did because that's what you do. So that's when Perez comes into the picture. They found him working in the neighborhood and people around praised his work. So they took everyone's advice and hired him and met with him. So they met him, they hired him, they did a contract at the end of March. The couple wanted to move in by December, which, okay, and that's 8 months. But after talking to, after filing the lawsuit and stuff, see, it was easier telling you the stuff so I could, talk about it. That's what I meant.
That was a good order.
So their lawyer ended up, I guess, being a contractor for 33 years. So he was like, no, that work would have taken him 3 months. So giving him 8 months was more than generous.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Perez got their key in April, and by June, there were already issues.
Yeah.
Perez did everything wrong, pretty much. He was not on time. He didn't keep a schedule whatsoever. And then in July, the middle of July, Mrs. Holland went down and visited, and she barely saw any work done. And him, being that type of guy, was just hushing her and oh no, here's an excuse. It's not
right.
That it has to be done this way, and making excuses for no progress.
There's so much prep and
yeah. So he just assured her everything was fine and that they would get better about being on schedule and whatever. So she left. Well, of course, it's Florida, so during the summer, there's a lot of tropical storms and rainstorms.
Sure.
And that's just, it rains every day in Florida, I feel like. So
I think it does, actually.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've ever been there, it has rained a little bit every single day.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's midday or
yeah. You got to break the humidity
12 and
somehow.
3. Yeah. So during the summer, obviously, it's much worse because he blamed it on a tropical storm that had come through. He said that he claimed it ruined a major power outlet.
A major power outlet.
Yeah. So
not
I feel not a minor one, but I was like, okay. Either way, How? Like, how? Okay.
Well,
I have to
even
remember
if
that
it
these people are
did,
older, and they were
like,
probably like, oh, that's bad.
That's horrible,
You don't
right?
have electricity now? Like, everything's ruined. So he got like $950 out of them for that. Which, yeah. So the Hollands decided they were going to go visit as soon as they could, so they went down in October. So this is 6 months now. December's when they want to move in. They go in October, and there is no kitchen, just overall poor workmanship. Like, the grout tiles were off, and they weren't even. Everything was just, like,
really
it just
obvious.
looked bad.
Yeah.
And then the whole no kitchen thing was crazy, because it's been 6 months, so why isn't there any of the kitchen done? Right. So he promised it would all be done by mid-December as planned, but he kept demanding more money for all of these issues that were happening. And, oh, well, I need this. And it was a lot of, well, it's not me, but it's like code. Like, I have to bring it up to code, or I have to do it this way, or I have to file this permit.
Right.
So it was a lot of that. Well, in December, on the 14th, which is mid-December. Yeah. So they kept to their time limit. Yeah. They were ready to move in.
Give or take 1.5 days, right?
I know, but still. That was like cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they get to the house, and within seconds they were like, we can't live here.
Oh my God.
The walls were, I mean, it was just in shambles. The walls were uneven. The kitchen cabinets were crooked. The tile gaps were horrible. Everything was just, it was unlivable.
Right.
I cannot imagine walking into, like, your new home and it being completely wrecked.
Oh my God. No kidding.
And it's like, if you're going to do it right. Don't, like, half-ass it.
Right.
Whole ass point of one thing.
Doing
in
all
the words
of that
of
work.
Swanson.
Right.
So, anywho, they obviously were pissed, and, like, but they're old, so they're sweet. So they were like, ugh. So Miss Holland texted him that day at 12:36. And 15 minutes later, she got a text reply that says, "This is Mark's daughter. Dad passed away on the 7th of December in a car accident. Sorry."
So then he had at least one accomplice, right? Because he had to have somebody to make that. Presumably he didn't make the call from his daughter.
No, I think that he probably just sent the text back and signed it as his daughter.
Oh, it was a text.
Oh, yeah, no, it was a text
Sorry.
message.
Duh.
Yeah, because she got a message back in reply to her text message about the house.
Gotcha.
Saying that. But,
do you think he had that plan all along? Or do you think it was like, oh shit, they're actually going to care?
If he came up with that within the 15 minutes it took to get the reply, that's a short amount of time to decide you're going to be dead.
Right.
Because that takes a lot of work. You have to lay low for forever. And now you know these people own this house, so they're going to be local.
Right.
So
no, that's true.
I think that he had some thought into it.
I'm just wondering about these other homes where he did good work.
Yeah. Yeah. I kept trying to read into the article and, like, find something else because I was skimming over towards the last part, so it was wrapping up. But they approached other people, but they were all like, well, no, it was always great.
Do you think he used to work with a different team, or he'd started drinking, or he'd started gambling, or I don't know. Something, and he's getting rid of material? Like, there's got to be something.
I don't know. So, of course, they felt horrible.
Yeah.
Because, like, what do you say to that? Like,
oh, I'm sorry about your dad. He did shitty work when he was alive.
Yeah. So they decided to just rent a house nearby, and they got new contractors to come in and fix it all, and they got even worse news. So the new contractors were like, no, this is not good. I guess all of the, like, emergency and important repair stuff to comply with building codes never got anything done. It actually got worse. So he took all that money. And then they found out that he wasn't even a licensed contractor, even though he said he was. And that was what he presented himself as, was a licensed contractor who was very trusted in the neighborhood. And so they found out he wasn't even licensed, which is horrible because then the whole contract is void and everything. But that's in their favor because he lied about being a licensed contractor.
Except that he is also at this point dead.
Fake dead. But, so Miss Holland decided to do a little investigating because they were like, it's just weird. We never saw an obituary. So she started looking into it and couldn't find anything. But then she remembered that in a conversation they had that he had mentioned the neighborhood he lived in. So they drove around until they found his truck. And then they started talking to neighbors and was like, yeah, he did a lot of work for us, and
we can't find him.
And so they told the neighbors that that his daughter had texted and said that he had passed away in a car accident. And I mean, not to say it like this, but every car accident that has a fatality is on the news that night.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because especially in a local place like this, it was a county. It wasn't like a big city or anything.
Well, and also, if his truck and the cars were in the driveway, right? Where was? I mean, he could be crossing the street and get hit by a car, and that would be a car accident, I guess. But,
right. But the neighbors totally were like on the Holland side, so everyone started snooping around for information.
Nice.
And I was like, yes, I want to live in a neighborhood like that.
Right. Unless you're the contractor.
Well, yeah, that's true. So that's when Glenn started doing the stakeouts, and he just like could not believe that someone would do that just to rip them off. Like, there are other ways to handle it, not fake your own death.
Well, right, and that's not even that much money.
Yes, and that was the other point. They liked him because he also said that he was a veteran. So he was like, I was shocked that one vet to another would do this. Like, they have that, like, brotherly bond thing.
Sure.
But anywho, that's when he started the stakeouts. That sounds so fun and cool. Like,
it is. I bet it is not fun. I mean, it sounds fun, but it is nothing but sitting there wishing that you didn't think you had to pee.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I guess stakeouts for guys are probably way easier.
True. It's true.
So the Hollands kind of surfed around all of their options of, well, what can we do? Because they knew that he was alive because of the stakeouts and everything. So it ended up being like a civil suit that they filed against him for his misrepresentation of himself.
Sure.
Because he, said he was a licensed contractor. So it costed them $15,000 to fix their house.
Oh my God.
In addition to what he had already paid, what they'd already paid for us to do all of this emergency stuff and upfront costs for new cabinets and a new this and a new
all
that.
The materials. Yep.
So I guess they got a reporter involved, and he or she didn't say, sorry, texted about a job, and then Perez answered and was like, yeah, what can I do? Is it a remodel? Like, still trying to get work. So then the reporter ended up calling them and was like, oh, actually, I want to know about the allegations that what you did to the Hollands and blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then like 2 days later, the phone line was disconnected.
Of course.
So this article was, I think it was released at the beginning of this month. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they've gone to court yet, but that's one I really want to know, like how bad it gets nailed.
No kidding.
And even their lawyer, which I was saying was like a contractor for like 33 years or something, it said, was saying that everyone has gone through something like this.
I have.
Yeah. So it's like, you don't have to go that extreme. No. If you couldn't do it, you should have just said it in the first place. Like, if it's too big of a bite, like, that's all. Like, there were ways that we could have avoided this. They're like, besides the whole faking your own death thing is dramatic. Like,
right.
You don't have to be like that.
I was thinking I've been on the other end of it. But yeah, no, faking your own death is just pretty dumb unless, like, you have a really, really great reason and lots of resources.
For weeks, though, because they did a lot of stakeouts.
Right.
And if all the neighbors were in on it.
Yeah, it's not like he's sneaking through their backyards or anything. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I hope that they end up being able to sue him for more than just damages and their initial investment and all that. Like, he owes them some serious money, although I think what'll happen, he'll probably just like declare bankruptcy or something and they'll never get any of it.
Yeah, which that would be sad because as they're trying to find a new place to live now and fix the place that they own and renting, and she was going through a lot of chemo, and it was just like
sucks.
Too much on that emotional and financial.
Right.
Like, that's not.
Well, and yeah. That's exhausting.
He's exhausting.
No kidding. That just was the whole time reminding me of my driveway and making me angrier and angrier and angrier.
I forgot about the driveway.
Yeah. So we hired a local company that we thought we had done enough vetting. And because they got some good reviews on like a local group and whatever else, and they came out and they looked at the driveway. They were really official. They were like, okay, well, you know, we're going to do this and this and this. We were getting our driveway paved. They did the whole process. They talked to us about why the major company, why they were better than the major company, and seemed extremely knowledgeable. They had all the right equipment, did the whole driveway. They left. They said, okay, it's got to set up, so don't drive on it for 48 hours or 72 hours or something like that. And, you know, before that time had even elapsed, it started just like washing away. And now it is pretty much just a little bit of crushed up rock, and it was never sealed. It was never even paved. I don't know what they put on it, but it washed off. They were out. And they came and did the initial work, and then we were like, well, we think we want it sealed. And they were like, okay, you know, for $200 more, since we've already done all this, we'll come. So they came back out to do the sealing, which was nothing. I think they sprayed oil on it or something and left. So yeah, and then we found out afterward, well, we tried to get in touch with them, and, you know, they had a whole, if you're not happy with it, call this number, like, you know, here's my cell phone number. They were so nice. And it was a family. It was awful. They had done the same thing to some businesses in the area for tens of thousands of dollars. Gosh. They paved parking lots and and they were being sued, but nobody could find them. And I'm sure they just skipped town, and now they're doing it somewhere else.
That's insane.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to solve that crime, I would love to have that money back.
Thank you.
Right? It was not tens of thousands of dollars or anywhere near that, but I'd still like it back. So.
Well, that is what happened to the Hollands, and I thought it was pretty crazy, and I'm going to keep an eye on it to see what exactly what happens to him. I hope he doesn't declare bankruptcy, because that would suck. I would be so furious.
Well, and I'm really interested to know who said he did good work. Like,
I think that everyone who had him do work was not a full-blown remodel. I think it was
just little things.
He came in and fixed this thing for me, or touched up this wall, or I don't think it was a full remodel.
So he just took on a project he wasn't actually qualified for.
So it's just all very sad.
No kidding. I'm really angry on their behalf.
I know.
And some of it is just anger at my driveway.
Well, yes, which I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I never forget about that. Every time I go out there, I remember about that. Every time Tobin brings me in a rock,
I'm like, from the driveway.
That came from the driveway that's paved and sealed. There's no way you could have pried that out of the driveway. So, all right. Well, I have a totally different kind of story for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
And I really meant to have Google read me this word. I think it's Savo is how you say it. I should know. It's like a river. In Kenya. Yep, in Kenya. And I just feel like it is a name that I should be able to pronounce, but we're going to call it Savo. And this is about man-eaters.
Ew.
Yup. So I told you, totally different story.
Is this going to gross me out?
I am not sure.
Oh, yeah.
She's already gagging. It's, let's get into it and we'll see. Mm-hmm. So the nice thing about this story, in addition to human consumption, is that there's a huge twist in this, and I'm really excited about the twist. Okay, so I'm going to give you some historical context because this is an old crime. Okay, so 1896,
okay, sorry, I was like, 1896 is so long.
Right? I was not alive then.
I was not alive.
David was not alive then. Diana was not alive then. No, of course not. You don't know anybody who's like 120?
No. No.
Anyway, so in Kenya, the Kenya-Uganda Railway, or sometimes it's just shortened to Uganda Railway Company, which was originally government owned. It's now defunct, so it's out of business, and the railroad that they were building doesn't work. It was later, so it was originally government owned. Later, it was bought by a private company.
Okay.
Anyway, they were working on building the Kenya-Uganda Railway. So the company was building the railway that had the same name, just to make things extra confusing.
Great.
Mostly the people who were building this railway, much the same way that our railroads out here got built, were laborers that they brought in this case from India. There were 32,000 people brought in from India. Officially, the government's position was, and this was the British government that was in charge of all of this, right? Was that everybody working on the railroad that was brought in from India to Africa to work on this road, they all wanted to be there. They were treated very well. They were there because they wanted to work hard. They certainly weren't slaves. Realistically, that was not very true. It was sort of, the article I was reading sort of said that it was like a military operation, almost like it was run that way. They knew that there would be casualties, and that was an acceptable sacrifice.
Oh my God.
Right?
Like, I'm sorry. No, thank you.
The casualties in this case were 2,498 people who died during the building.
Acceptable?
And apparently that's acceptable.
No, it's fine.
It's nearly 10%.
No, that's all right.
Our
limit was 12. We're good.
Right. We're still under.
Oh, my God.
So this was already a dangerous thing. Lots of people were dying. The camps were not in good condition. They weren't treated well. They didn't get labor union mandated breaks or anything like that. They didn't get anything. They weren't well protected. And the person in charge of at least the part of the railroad building that we're going to talk about was a British colonel. Actually, he was a lieutenant colonel. And so it was being run by the military. So people that weren't necessarily, the kind of people that knew how to manage a railroad building project.
I wish I could get a job that I'm completely unqualified for, but yet still do the job.
Would you want to do it well?
Well, no.
Or just
but remember
do
that
it?
one time I was going to apply to be a roofer and then just be like, oh, man, I've been roofing my whole life, and just get the job and then just follow what everyone else is doing and just hope I blend in. Like,
take lots of breaks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, if you want some hands-on experience, I hear that I need my shingles scraped off and replaced.
I'm sure I could figure that out. Like,
I don't know how you're going to get up there. I don't own a ladder.
I'm sure I have a ladder.
You think you have a ladder?
Maybe.
In your bedroom that you're renting?
Jeez, Erin, thanks.
I'm just thinking, I know that some of your furniture is in the living room and some of your stuff is here. So
I was thinking,
I'm wondering where the ladder is.
I had a ladder, okay, Erin?
Sorry.
So sorry.
Where is this 30-foot ladder hiding, and how did you get it there?
I'm just saying, if Yako could get on half of the roof, I could at least get to that half, and then use the ladder to get up the rest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely get to part of the roof. Either way, we're talking about a railroad.
Okay, back to the railroad.
So, in 1898, they were working on building a bridge over the Savo River in Kenya. And this was being led, like I said, by a British lieutenant colonel named Lieutenant Colonel Patterson. I think his first name was actually John, but I didn't bother to write it down. Because he plays a pretty significant role in the end of this, but he's not a main character for the majority of my notes. Okay. So the construction for this particular bridge lasted 9 months. Right? Which I don't know how that lawyer would have felt about it, but
know. Bridges must be way different.
Well, it's true, especially in 1898.
Yeah.
Right. You're not driving cars out there to bring supplies. So the other thing that was going on, like we talked about, a bunch of people were dying during construction. But there were some other causes of death too, other than just being in Kenya in 1898, which is a cause of death. They had some slave caravans that used a part of the river very close to where they were building the bridge to cross. And so, of course, they would just toss dead into the river if people died on the way. They weren't, worth anything, right? Because they're slaves. And the other thing that was going on is, and I'm not sure if it was cultural or like a lack of understanding, because in this time period, we still didn't totally understand very much about like medicine and that kind of thing, or if it was just like time and resources. But when they were cremating people who died, not the ones they threw into the river, but like other people, they only did sort of a partial cremation. They didn't burn them enough before they buried the remains.
Ew.
And so I'm not really sure what the point was, or maybe they just didn't have the ability to, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. As a result of both of these things, there were a lot of wild animals that ended up feeding on human remains, which kind of comes up here in a minute.
Okay.
So during this bridge building, some men started to disappear. And the way it went down is they kind of started to disappear. They all at night would sleep in tents in like a community group, right? Okay. And the other workers would hear screams in the middle of the night. And then the guy sleeping next to you wasn't there in the morning. And something that you could see like drag marks and blood. And so
is this all just okay?
Well, no, but it started to happen, and then it was happening more and more frequently. They, couldn't quite figure out what was going on. They kind of knew what was going on. But the important part was they couldn't do anything to protect themselves. And so they tried a couple of things. The other thing about that was they were finding body parts and mangled carcasses and that kind of thing. And there was a really clear indication that they were being eaten. Yeah. Okay. So, in order to stop whoever this was that was killing everybody in the camps, because everyone was terrified, they built traps. They would keep campfires going all night long and tend to them. And they built these fences, which I saw some pictures of, and they were amazing. So they were thorn fences. So they took this plant that grew there that has thorns that are like feet long, and they would weave them into these fences to keep everything and everyone out of the camp. Wow. None of this worked at all.
I wonder why.
So the number of people who eventually died varies. The first report, which was written by Lieutenant Colonel Patterson, said there were 135 men killed and probably eaten.
Oh my God.
Modern science has gone back through and looked more carefully at like the specifics of his reports, because he was keeping a journal the whole time, and like, this is what happened this day, and this person's gone, and this is how many workers we have, and that kind of stuff. And then they also did some really fascinating, it wasn't DNA, but it was like autopsy kind of things to determine like how many of these people had been eaten. And they think it's more like 21 to 35.
Okay.
And they're leaning more toward like 35, seems like a pretty reasonable number, but that does not take into account people who were killed but not consumed. So there could have been a lot more bodies that just were not eaten. All right. So of course, as the number of people who were carried screaming into the night increased, the number of people left who were terrified and wanted to leave increased, and eventually hundreds of workers fled, and all the work on the railroad just stopped.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And it was at that point they were like, okay, we got to do something. Like, we're not able to keep out this murder or whatever. So, the killers, because it is a team of 2.
Oh, okay.
Yes. They... Apparently, the belief is they got a taste for human flesh from feeding on the bodies of the dead that were tossed into the river or partially cremated, so like nicely roasted and then buried. They were lions. Yeah. So there were 2 maneless male lions. Maneless. So I had to look this up. I was like, was something wrong with them? And that's why they were eating people and didn't have a mane. So apparently in Africa, there is quite a variation in the kind of mane a lion might have.
Yeah.
Depending on like where they live. And that all has to do with, sort of genetic mutations, and this group of animals does well like this or whatever. So in some areas of Kenya, the lions will have very, very small, sparse, light-colored manes, or possibly no manes at all. So that was normal. Also, I'm not entirely sure about the size of a lion. I think in my brain, they're always like the size of your dog. But they're not. They're way bigger.
Yeah.
Like way bigger. Like the first of these two lions was 9 feet 8 inches from nose to tail tip.
Wow.
Right? That's like me and Tyler. It's like you and I standing on each other's shoulders. That's really, really long.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't give a measurement for the second lion, but they were very similar in size.
Mm-hmm.
So the other reasons they think that these lions were serial killers and eaters of human beings is because at the time, like actually right exactly at this time, so in 1898, not 1998, there was a cattle plague going on that wiped out a lot of like their natural food.
Oh.
Also, they know from studying the skulls of these two lions since that one of them had a damaged mouth. And so there's some conflicting thoughts around that because the first thought is, well, maybe they weren't able to hunt their natural prey because lions like bite the throat of their victim and they have to hold on very tight. If this lion was injured or didn't, was in pain or whatever else, they wouldn't be able to do that. And a human would be a much easier animal to kill than a cow that's bigger than you, especially since they like wrap them all up nice and neat in a little tent. So the problem with that theory is that Patterson says that this lion got injured in the mouth because he shot it, and that he had shot it in the mouth, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. They did find infection in the jaw of one of the lions, and I'm not sure if it was the same lion or the other lion, but they said that could have caused some problems hunting too, and so humans were just easier prey. Plus the whole thing about getting a taste for human flesh, and
well, they're like, well, that was easy. There's more. Cool.
There's more, and we only have to work a tiny bit harder to get these. They go to sleep at night, and all of the things that they did to try to
very fast.
Right. All the things they did to try to keep them out, and I don't know what the traps were, but the thorns, well, that was naturally occurring in their environment. They know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
They would either go under it, no big deal, or they would just jump over it, no big deal.
Yep.
And then the fire, well, they had learned to associate that with, I'm going to get a free meal.
Yeah.
So that wasn't keeping them away. It was probably encouraging them to come into the camps. So...
That's so crazy.
Right. So here's what they did. So this is the solving of the crime.
I like it.
So after everybody fled, and Patterson was like, okay, well, we're never going to get this bridge built if I can't get the men back here, and I can't get them back until I take care of these things that are eating them. So he set a bunch of traps, which had absolutely no effect, didn't catch the lions at all. And which he should have known because they had already tried that. Then on December 9th, 1998, the first lion got within range of where he was. He had built like
I think you said 1998.
I probably did, but I meant 1898.
1898.
100 years before 1998. He had built a little platform up in a tree and was like hiding up there to watch them come into the camp. And they actually had an area where there were some penned goats, and they had gone in.
How Jurassic Park.
Right? Right? Exactly. Well, and I even picture him dressed just like that, too.
Yeah.
Like the safari hat.
Yes.
So the lions had been in there and killed some of the goats, and so he sort of set up camp there to hunt them down, figuring that they would come back for more easy prey now that all the people had left.
Yeah.
So he managed to shoot the first lion in the leg, like sort of through its hip. 20 days later, that lion, who was continuing to hunt and kill things and try to come after him and walking around, and it was no big deal, finally he got close enough to it again that he shot it through the shoulder into its heart, and it died sometime during the night, and he found the body the next morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's lion number 1.
Okay.
Lion number 2 had to be shot 9 times using 3 different rifles.
Wow.
Before it would go down. So basically, over a period of 12 days.
Yeah.
So for 12 days, the first day he managed to shoot it, I think 2 or 3 times, and it still kept going.
I know that they ate people. This is making me sad, though.
I know. Well, but I feel like with these lions, they're animals, and they don't know not to eat people, especially because they've sort of been trained to eat people, and so that sucks. At the same time, in the grand scheme of lionness, they're not contributing to their pride. Yeah. They don't seem to belong to a pride.
Yeah.
They were both males, which I thought was unusual for lions to do that, but maybe I don't know as much about lions as I thought I did.
Lion, like the girls hunted.
I mean, that's what Lion King tells us, right? But I mean, even so, there generally aren't adult males together, I don't think. I think it's very rare, unless that is like one kind of lion and this kind of lion doesn't give a shit. I don't know. Anyway, so he shot it. He said in his journal, and, of course, he exaggerated the number of people that were eaten and everything else, and so take it with a grain of salt. But he said that when he finally managed to kill it after the 9th shot, after 12 days of hunting this thing, and it hunted him the entire time.
Oh, yeah, I'll say they were hunting each other.
Yeah. It was like the most dangerous game.
I don't like that.
That when it finally died, it was like gnawing on a tree branch and still trying to like claw its way toward him to get him. So like it died fighting, right?
That freaks me out.
So at this point we are, let's see, we're well into January. People finally returned to start working on the bridge again in February of 1899. The lions went on to be rugs in Lieutenant Colonel Patterson's house for a number of years, where they were not treated very well.
I'm sure.
Right. Plus, one of them at least would have been in tatters anyway if it had been shot 9 times with a rifle. And then eventually they were sold to the Chicago Field Museum, where you can still go see them today.
Oh my gosh.
So they had to reconstruct their pelts. They also got the skulls. They removed the skulls from the pelts, and then they stuffed the pelts so that they look like lions, and then they have like posed them. So one of them is like crouching and about to pounce on something, and the other one is standing and like looking at what the first one's about to. It's pretty cool. So Savo is TSAVO, and if you type that in, you don't even have to look up man-eaters, it'll come up. So you can still see them, and you can see like they go into detail if you look on, I think it's on the museum website, but I know you can find it on Wikipedia too, that, which one had the injured tooth and which one has the infection and which one was which size and which one was killed first and all that kind of stuff. They do look
like dogs without the mane.
They do. Well, I think they look extra scary without the mane because they look like evil somehow, like not how I picture a lion. They don't look like lionesses.
No, they don't.
They look very, I mean, I don't know, can a big cat look masculine? They look very masculine to me,
yeah.
But they don't have a mane, and so they look not deformed, but just like not right.
Yeah, no, that's...
Plus, they're this very dusty
their
gray.
Head shape is exactly like Julius's head shape.
Yeah.
Like even the
But
nose
9 feet.
I know. It's just weird.
So later when Julius goes out to go to the bathroom, I'm getting the tape measure out to find out how many inches he is from nose tip to tail tip. Because now I need to know.
Yeah.
I bet it's going to make the lions that much scarier. We can measure him in segments and add it all up. We'll do his head and then his body.
And then body, and then I'll get him to stand up. You do the tail.
And I'll just do the tail.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
So, technically, it was kind of a crime, but it was an animal, so.
But it was fun.
I needed to do something a little bit different.
I liked it. It scared me because I thought you were about to... I thought it was going to be way gross.
Right, there's going to be a cannibal, like, eating 135 people.
Since, everything. But... I was not ready for it. Just in case. I was like...
And I knew the whole time it wasn't about people.
I know, and I did not.
Glad. I worked really hard at structuring that so that you wouldn't know it wasn't about people until the end.
Very good. And now I understand why yours had to be the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
My last story, Erin, is just something like it's like a little article, but it's just funny.
I'm excited.
And I saw it on Facebook and I said, "Excuse me?" So then I read it and it was like the dumbest thing, but that's what we're here for.
I know that Facebook is getting all kinds of flack for targeting ads and blah, blah, blah from a bunch of old white
Target them
men.
all to me that are crime related. I love it.
I agree. I like when I log into Gmail and it's like suggesting things on the side and I'm like, yeah, I did need to read about that today. Thank you.
It was like 15 reasons your dog, or 15 ways your dog can be secretly mad at you, and I was like, it's a sign. And I read them all, and I was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. We had like one on the whole 15 list. So I thought we were all right. And then I was like talking to Julius. Oh, this morning on the radio, they said if you could ask your pet one question and get a response, what question would it be? And everyone was like asking funny things. And then this one lady said, I would ask like, you know, are like, am I giving you the happiest life I can give you? Or is there something I like can change?
Oh,
I don't know. I was like, that's so sad, but cute. Because I'd be like, please don't say, well, yeah, I really don't want to live with you anymore.
Oh, no.
I would be like, what if I got rejected by my dog?
You were saying that, and I was like, well, if it was Oliver, I'd want to say, you really are an animagus, aren't you?
Yes, right?
I mean, I
would just be like, Julius, okay, I need to know. Like, were you a person in a past life? Because you always understand what I'm saying to you. Right. I could have full-on conversations with him about something, and I'd be like, and don't touch that again. Like, you know, talking to him like he's a kid. But then he listens. I don't know. He totally gets when I'm talking to him. Right. It's like you've seen it a few times.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird. So he was totally a person. My roommate said that he was probably a cat in a past life because he always acts like a cat, and I always complain about it. I'm like, maybe this is not his like first life at all, or second life at all. He's probably had a lot of lives. That's why he's so smart or dumb, whichever.
I mean, could you use your question in sort of a cheaty way and be like, what sort of language can we use to communicate from now on so that you can have endless
and then plan it out?
That's right.
I know the first thing I thought was like, I would be like, are you really happy? Like, you know, are you really happy? But then I was thinking, how many health problems and bullshit I go through with these dogs? Like, especially when Frankie was alive. Like, oh my God, that was so much. Right. But I was going to be like, okay, Julius, just hold it together. Your allergies are crazy. Now you're on steroids. Like, right. But what can I do for you? Right. I'm already doing everything. Okay, sorry. Back to the actual story. Right. So this is in, wait, when was this? Well, I don't get a date. Oh, so this was posted in March of this year. Okay. Jacksonville, Texas.
Several weeks away.
Yes.
Okay.
Officers in Jacksonville, of the police department, were looking for Jay Sheridan. Dre Sharon. It's one of those names that are just kind of a bunch of letters. Dre is definitely the first part.
Okay, just call him Dre.
No, we're figuring it out. Durin?
Okay. Sure.
Last name Hunter.
They were looking for Hunter. Got it.
A wanted felon, also known as... Are you ready for this alias?
I'm so excited.
You're not. You have no idea how bad it is.
Okay.
We've had some pretty bad.
We have had some really bad ones.
This one is Stinky Butt.
Oh my God, that's like the alias that my kids would give each other.
It's like Booger Butt and Stinky Butt. Right. So, yep, he goes by Stinky Butt. According to authorities,
that is so not tough.
No. And like, he looks tough.
He does.
No.
I guess that if you look that tough,
you can have a name like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they got a tip that he was going to be at this, like, in this park in this section. Yeah. So they kind of like felt it out, but I guess he didn't like. Oh no, they did see him, but he saw the cops first and ran.
Gotcha. So they didn't catch him.
No, they didn't catch him, but they were setting out like a warning to everyone, like, oh, he's on the run. He is at reward money of $1,000 for information that leads to his arrest. But I guess he has several warrants for multiple law enforcement agencies. So it's not even just this area. It's areas around it, too.
Oh, my God.
They're all trying to find him, and his name is frickin' Stinky Butt.
So, if this was only last month, if you're in somewhere in Texas, wherever Jordan said, you can make $1,000 if you just when you go outside.
I thought you were like about to sneeze. I was like, what's she doing? Holy shit.
I was demonstrating how you find someone named
Stinky Butt.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because when my daughter has a stinky butt,
like
you don't even have to smell that close.
No, you don't. So
I can only imagine.
But yes, I thought that was funny because his
stinky butt,
also known as Stinky Butt.
Wow. Okay. Who gave him that nickname? And are they alive?
And I mean, I don't want to know how. Like,
right.
It's like, oh, we call him Red because his favorite color is red.
Right. His hair's red.
No, Stinky Butt.
Stinky Butt. Also, surely you don't use the full name every time. Yo, Stinky Butt. I feel like
just yo Stinky. Like, ew.
Right. At some point you've got to shorten it, right? Like
yo butt.
Yo butt.
Ew.
On my call today, they were talking about something software related, and I needed to chime in and be like, hey, just you also need to keep in mind this. And I found myself saying, I have a butt. And then they both just stopped and waited for me to continue because that's
not what you meant.
That's not what I meant.
That's funny.
So, all right. So real quick shout outs.
Oh, yeah. You have them. I don't.
I do. I screenshotted them like a smart person.
Cool.
So I'm going to give a shout out because I didn't get to do it last time, but shout out to my little sister who has a new baby named Sammy, who is the cutest little baby and has so much hair. Oh my goodness, so much hair.
Yeah.
I also have a shout out for an iTunes review, and this is by Tiger Blood Kitten 1. Tiger Blood Kitten 1. Yep, I got that right. And so thank you very much for your review and for your concern about Jordan.
I am not anemic. I have
I was
horrible anxiety.
I was the one who was anemic and had to go get transfusions. But thank you for, Jordan's like,
only
no,
yawn
I'm just
because
nervous.
of my nerves. I'm so sorry. I try not to.
We also have, but the more you try, the more you yawn, and the more it makes me giggle. We also have a review from Tanya G. And I have responded to her it's on our Facebook page. Yes. But thank you very much for your review. We appreciate all kinds of reviews. And
good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, all the reviews.
All the things.
Oh, crud. I screenshotted the last one. So then the other shout out that I wanted to do is not for a review. It is for somebody who we have actually given a shout out to before. Jamie Prater. Shoot. Jamie.
Prater? I'm voting Prater. Sorry, Jamie.
We had that whole conversation about
Jamie.
Jamie, is it a boy or a girl? And then
because I'm Jordan. And
because you're Jordan. And I'm Erin, although mine is spelled in a way that people generally guess I'm a girl. But still, it's still anyway. So not only is she a Patreon supporter, which is an awesome club to be in. I know. But she also was like, hey, I have connections and I've got some great crime stories that I could share with you. Right. And then has sent us an email. And Jamie, we have not forgotten.
No.
We have not gotten to them yet. No. Although I have to work out with Jordan how we can read them without knowing each other's crimes.
I know. I haven't even opened the email yet.
Well, that's good. I read the first two. Don't read the first two.
Oh, okay.
I'm claiming them. You can read 3 and 4. I deliberately skipped over that.
Okay.
So anyway,
that works.
They're pretty cool. And so, Jamie, I'm sure we will be reaching out to you before we record those episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Once we pick which ones
call it, like,
we want to do.
Week.
That's right.
It's Jamie week, y'all.
It's Jamie week.
That'd be fun.
Speaking of which, also, we have another special episode coming up because it's not going to be Jamie Week, but we do have someone we are dedicating an entire episode to who has chosen the episode topics.
What?
We'll talk about it off air, and then we'll let it be a little bit of a surprise.
I'm surprised.
Jordan is surprised.
I don't even know.
She has
I just
no idea
up.
what's going on. No. So we'll do that. So on that note, everyone is awesome.
Yes.
And
sorry I was gone forever.
And Jordan really is alive. As
I am.
I swore in the last episode that I didn't murder her, and here she is.
She didn't. No.
She's right here.
Yep. Sorry, Julia is sleeping so cute right now. I cannot.
Jordan has arranged her. She brought her dog to my house.
I did.
And locked him in his cage.
I did.
Because he's afraid of my dog, who's 15 pounds.
But still.
Then she has arranged her chair, she claims, so that she can be close to the outlet.
I did not arrange it on the side of the room. It just happened to be done for me the other day.
So that she can watch her dog while she podcasts.
He's beautiful. What do you expect?
He is pretty awesome. I can't see him at all from this view.
He's so tucked up and cute, and that's how he sleeps in the middle of the night. So, like, you can see what I mean when he is literally kicking me off the bed because he has all of his feet like he's being hogtied all together in one pile.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, anyway, Jordan has an unhealthy obsession with her dog, and we're going to end our episode.
Yep. And please do not end up on next week's episode unless it's a story you send to us and not that you're actually in it.
I think that's an acceptable thing.
Okay, cool.